now take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, may I call on Mr. Paulo Duarte, ECCP President, back on stage to introduce our keynote speaker.
Good afternoon once again. It is my distinct honor to invite on stage Her Excellency Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, to deliver her keynote message. Welcome.
Thank you very much, President Duarte, Chairman Chua, Minister, ladies and gentlemen. It is very special for me to be here in Manila and once again to experience firsthand the famous Filipino hospitality. Each time I visit, I am struck by the warmth, the intelligence, and the honesty of the people I meet. You make everyone really feel at home, even 100,000 kilometers away from home. I really feel welcomed here, and I'm very glad to be here with you. While visiting your beautiful country, I also learned a proverb of yours. It says, "Be like a rice stalk. The more grain it bears, the lower it bows." And I believe a country's proverbs can tell a lot about its people. And this proverb certainly describes the people of the Philippines, always humble, especially in success. Right now, the Philippines are booming, thanks to your resilience, your dynamism, your work ethics. Your economy grew by 8% last year. You're among the fastest growing emerging markets. Your development plan, as outlined by President Marcos, is prioritizing good governance, cutting red tape, and speeding up permitting for strategic investments, for example, in renewables and semiconductors. Not only does this make the Philippines an even more attractive trade and investment destination for European firms, but Filipino companies are also beginning to thrive in the European Union. IMI, for example, has expanded its microelectronics business to become the 14th largest manufacturing solution provider in Europe. Or consider the Philippine port handling giant, ICTSI. It operates a container terminal in the Adriatic Sea and recently signed another 30-year lease to operate a port in the Baltics. It's worth mentioning as well that there are around 50,000 Filipino sailors manning ships with European flags. So you make trade happen, and you never boast about any of this. So allow me to begin by thanking all Filipinos who are contributing every single day to the friendship and the economic partnership between Europe and the Philippines. These examples show that the ties between our regions are already strong. But the time has come, I think, to lift our partnership to the next level, because we have much more in common than our geographic distance would suggest. I see three main fields where we share interests and values, and we are just made to work together. First of all, international security. Both the Philippines and Europe believe in a global order that is based on the principles of the UN Charter, such as respect for every nation's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And this order is now threatened in both our regions. Second, economic transformation. We are both modernizing our economies with a focus on the green and the digital transition. And in parallel, we are de-risking our trade investments. Europe and the Philippines are natural economic partners more than ever before. And third, on democratic values. Because economic progress can only be coupled with social progress for all people in our societies. Let me begin with security. The Philippines have helped build the rules-based global order. You were a founding member of the United Nations, ASEAN, and the World Trade Organization. And last year, you stood up to uphold the global order when Russia sent its tanks into Ukraine. Both the European Union and the Philippines, along with over 140 countries, have clearly condemned Russia's war of aggression against a sovereign, independent member of the United Nations. And this is why we Europeans will continue to support Ukraine and to uphold the UN Charter for as long as it takes. But another permanent member of the UN Security Council, China, has yet to assume fully its responsibility under the UN Charter to uphold the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. This is happening against the backdrop of China's more assertive stance in our region. Europe has constantly called on China to respect the sovereign rights of states within their exclusive economic zones. China's show of military force in the South and East China Sea and in the Taiwan Strait directly affects Philippines and other partners in the region, but it could also have global repercussions. Because any weakening of regional stability in Asia, the fastest growing region in the world, affects global security, the free flow of trade, and our own interests in the region. So whether we talk about Ukraine or about the South China Sea, our security is connected. And that is why the European Union has been enhancing its engagement in the Indo-Pacific. We aim to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific, to reinforce respect of international law and address global challenges. With the Philippines, we are deepening our security partnership, particularly on maritime security and on cyber cooperation. And we want to do more. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot choose our neighbors, but we can choose who to do business with and on what terms. And this leads me to my second point. We Europeans are clear-eyed when it comes to diversifying and de-risking our trade and investments. We made the mistake with Russia, thinking that we could manage our geopolitical interests through business. Just to recall, before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Europe heavily relied on fossil fuel energy imports from Russia. Then, when the Kremlin started the war, Russia tried to blackmail us with cutting its gas supply. First of all, it threatened, and then it cut. Russia cut 80% of the natural gas supplies to Europe within 8 months. So you can imagine this triggered a severe energy crisis in Europe, but we withstood. We saved energy, 20% of the energy. The European people really understood what it was all about. We diversified to like-minded partners like the United States and Norway, Algeria, Morocco. And we massively invested in renewable energy because this is homegrown energy. So for the first time last year, the European Union produced more electricity from sun and wind than from gas. Today, we're stronger than before and more independent, and we have learned our lesson. So we won't make the same mistake again. When it comes to key inputs needed for our competitiveness, not only energy, but, for example, critical raw materials, we should never rely on one single supplier. And this is the core of our de-risking strategy. And I know this is not only Europe's strategy. The Philippines, for instance, exports 90% of its nickel ore to China. Instead of processing it inside the country to create more jobs and added value. But this can change. That's also why I'm here in Manila today. The Philippines and the European Union have a major opportunity to step up our partnership on both trade and investment. So let me focus on investment first. Europe has just launched a plan for boosting infrastructure investments in strategic sectors in partner countries. We call it Global Gateway. And for ASEAN, we've put forward an investment package worth 10 billion euros in public funds. But it's not only about money. It's also about the method. European investments come with the highest environmental and labor standard, as well with a strong focus on creating local value chains. Take the raw material example. Unlike other foreign investors, we do not want to invest only in the extraction of raw materials. We can also support you in building local capacity for processing, powered by new clean energy infrastructure. Renewable energy, as I said, is not only good for the climate, it's also homegrown. So Global Gateway seeks to create good jobs right here, because this also strengthens our supply chains. Global Gateway seeks to promote investments that move Filipino sectors up the value chain. And we look forward to working with the Asia Development Bank, based right here in Manila. You are the experts in the region, and we share similar priority. So it's only natural that we work hand in hand. Moreover, the Philippines are a natural leader in digital innovation. The Philippine Venture Capital Report 2023 observed an explosion of new activity in the country's startup ecosystem. Your e-commerce market value increased by 33% in the last 3 years alone. And the people of the Philippines are 5 years younger than the global average. These are huge assets that you have here. So it's no surprise that your economy is so dynamic. And the Philippines can become a new digital hub in the region. But as entrepreneurs everywhere, Filipino entrepreneurs need infrastructure investment. And this is where Global Gateway can truly make a difference. And we are already working on the ground, or I should rather say in space. Together with the Philippine Space Agency, we are building the first Earth observation system, and in parallel, Nokia is investing in 5G infrastructure. So why does this matter to Filipino investors? And why does it matter for Filipino innovators? Because the European Copernicus satellites and their data will be made available for space-based services right here in the Philippines. In other words, the Copernicus data will be in real time stored and shared here in the Philippines through your space agency. And this is of utmost importance, for example, for this disaster risk management, or for early warning systems against typhoons, a typical topic here for the Philippines, but also for climate change observation, for satellite navigation, which is fundamental for aviation, for example, for drones and autonomous driving. And this example is just a part of a larger digital economy package that we are finalizing with the government. We are even, and I love this project, exploring a possible extension of a new fiber submarine cable that will connect the European Union via the Arctic to Japan, and now we're looking into the possibility to extend it to the Philippines. So we would create a direct data connection between our two regions to de-risk and open up new opportunities for both our economies. New investments could also lead the way for more trade between Europe and the Philippines. The European Union is your first foreign investor, your fourth largest trading partner, accounting for nearly 8% of your trade. And this is thanks to our current trade preference scheme, the so-called GSP+, which we will prolong. But there's much more untapped potential in our trade relationship. And let me give you an example. A few months ago, I was in South Korea. There I saw the impressive positive impact of a trade deal we've just concluded. In a little over a decade, the EU trade with Korea has more than doubled. And this is what happens when you give people and businesses the opportunity to work across borders. New doors open for innovation. And most importantly, people benefit. So let's make progress. Our trade agreements with Singapore and Vietnam are already delivering, and Europe wants to conclude more free trade agreement with other ASEAN countries. I believe, like President Marcos, that the timing and the conditions are just right for us now to solidify our bilateral trade relations. And that is why we have taken the decision to relaunch our negotiations for a free trade agreement between the Philippines and the European Union. Trade agreements today are about much more than eliminating tariffs and quotas. They are about shared commitments, values and principles, including on human and labor rights. And this leads me to the last point. Our democracies. All of them are work in progress. None of them is perfect, but all of them are perfectible. Your new government has taken some important steps for human rights here in the Philippines. Each one of our democracies is different, but we all share the same universal values and the same direction of travel. The path towards better democracies is one that we can and we should walk together. Ladies and gentlemen, the Philippines and the European Union may stand at the opposite sides of the world, but our destinies are linked more than ever before. We see it with geopolitics and climate change. We see it in the connection of our value chains. We have a similar outlook in the Indo-Pacific, and we have strong economic ties. Europe wants to be a trusted partner to the Philippines as it grows into its economic potential. We want to be partners who stand eye to eye, partners who put people and their values first. Having met so many wonderful people here in the Philippines who are proud of their country, hardworking and humble, I'm excited for what we can achieve together. I know you are proud of your Bayanihan spirit, and I really hope that we can build the same spirit of community between us in Europe and the Philippines. Salamat, and thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat po, Madam President. May we ask you to stay on stage. This is going to look like a Philippine wedding, which is the picture-taking part. So we're going to do it in 2 batches. It's usually the bride's family and the groom's family. But this time, we'll start with batch number 1, speakers, heads of organizers, and guests of honor from the Philippine government. Secretary Pascual and our esteemed panelists, please come here on stage and join us for a family photo. Okay. It isn't over yet, Madam President.